If you are exhausted, anxious, frustrated, or quietly angry and you don't fully know why, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not weak. And you are not alone. What you might be is wounded. And that changes everything. You see, most men don't struggle because they lack discipline or ambition. They struggle because they're carrying the pain they were never taught how to address in the first place. Pain that they learn to bury, pain that they learn to outrun, pain that they learn to manage instead of heal. In this episode, I want to talk about wounds. Not as a liability, but as the very thing that I believe God may be using to unlock the greatness that's already inside of you. To understand why this matters, I need to take you back to a moment that cracked everything open for me. Men of greatness, rise and stand tall. What's up, everybody? Ryan James Miller here. Happy 2026. You are listening to Watching Unlocking Greatness, a podcast that I have created to enable Christian men to continue to succeed without destroying their faith or their family in the process. In this episode, I want to walk through a scenario, a situation, a real live moment for me that changed so much. It was April of 2019. And I experienced what was later diagnosed as my first anxiety attack. Sure, I'd felt anxious before, I'd experienced stress, I'd walked through many difficult seasons. Being in the midst of a mass shooting, I had lost my home and everything in it to short sale. I'd been in the emotional and spiritual and relational roller coasters of life. I mean, so many things had happened in previous years. But something about this day, that day in April of 2019, that was just different. The weeks leading up to it, they weren't great. I had lost a significant business opportunity, one that would have paid me really, really well over the course of that year. I was walking closely with a friend through a really painful situation in his own marriage. And on top of all of that, my business, the thing I was responsible for providing through to my family, felt like it was starting to kind of slip through my fingertips. I owned a coaching and consulting practice. I was helping a large client rebuild their sales process while coaching for their salespeople to exceed their revenue goals. This client was my largest. Monthly, it was in excess of 5 figures, and I was on the verge of losing them. When I woke up that morning, I knew that I was going to be receiving a call from them later that day. And I just went dark. Doubt started to creep in about my calling as a consultant, as a coach. I started struggling around whether or not I was capable. It even started to hit my worth. Was I worthy of even being in this place in the first place? And I tried to fight through it. I told myself I would push harder. I imagined David Goggins telling me to toughen it up, but it didn't work. Driving just 3 miles to my office felt so overwhelming. I had an early coaching call. I barely made it through that. And as the time came for that call with the client, that large client, my thoughts just spiraled. How is my family going to pay the bills? How quickly will we end up right back where we were in 2013 when we lost everything? What will I tell my family? What will other people think of me when this happens? And then my body, it just absolutely shut down. I sat down in the corner of my office on the floor and I curled up into a ball. My body was shutting down. Physically, I felt like the energy was just being sucked out of me. Mentally, I had a hard time engaging the logic of what was happening in that moment. And spiritually, I cried out to God, but it felt like my loud screams were just utter whisper. I had one last option, I felt, in that moment, and I used it. I called my wife and I just begged for her to pray for me. That day didn't create something new in me. That day exposed something old. In the days that followed, in the weeks that followed, I spent a lot of time reflecting, praying, talking with people that I trusted, and I had to ask myself an incredibly hard question. Was this anxiety attack just the result of too much stress at one time, or was something deeper happening? Because circumstances, and I'm sure you've been in this situation before, circumstances can trigger events like the one that I experienced. I realized, though, that my anxiety attack was the result of a wound. Many wounds, actually. But the wounds that I speak of aren't the ones that you may be familiar with. These aren't the outward physical cuts. These aren't scrapes. These aren't the bruises to the body. These are long held emotional injuries that, when left untreated, fester and worsen over time. Every human being on this earth, at least everyone that I've ever interacted with, has been wounded. If you're listening or you're watching right now, I'm sure that something inside you resonates with what I'm saying. But I want you to know this. This was really important for me as I decided to share this today. And it's this: you aren't abnormal. You're human. But we need to see that there is an opportunity for a shift. And I think that's where we start to really struggle. The real shift happens when we stop asking what's wrong with me and we start asking a better question, which is what happened to me. For you men specifically, because that's most of you that tune in, that subscribe, the problem isn't that men are wounded. The problem is how we are taught to deal with them. And what I want to do is I want to help you see how men learn to bleed silently so you can identify that for yourself and start to work your way out of it, especially as this is kicking off a new year. Maybe it's a new you. Maybe you have new desires for yourself. Maybe you just want to continue on the trajectory that you're on, but you fear something unwinding from your past. What's interesting as it relates to wounds is I think a lot of people believe that we are expertly equipped to deal with wounds, especially when you consider just how broken this world is and the constant afflictions we face. Jesus himself said in the book of John, "In this world you will have tribulation." From a young age, especially as men, we're taught how to deal with pain. We're taught to get up, shake it off, tape it up, dust it off, and just keep going. So it's no wonder that when the wounds are mental or emotional, as we grow up, we attempt to use that same prescription. And for Christians, it often sounds super spiritual. This is where Philippians 4:13 actually destroys us. We'll quote, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." It becomes the war cry as we attempt to push harder, to push through, to get over our trauma. That doesn't work in the same way as resetting a broken bone. But there's something even worse than that. Most emotional wounds are far more severe than a broken bone. They're more like the compound fracture that completely shatters and blows a femur right through a thigh. And again, our answer to that mess is wearing a t-shirt with Philippians 4:13 on it. I mean, you can put that shirt on all you want, but you're just going to bleed right through it. And when the pain keeps bleeding, men find ways to numb it. Many, many men specifically, and again, like I'm just trying to think of where I was in this situation I've been a Christian for many years, and so I had my own ways into this, but with a lot of other men that I encounter that face this situation, men will look for anything, anything to take the pain away, either by turning to self-preservation, self-glorification, or maybe self-medication. For some men, it's alcohol, it's drugs. For others, it's just steeping themselves deeper into the work that they're already in. And for others, even, it's just validation, achievement, distraction, or maybe isolation. We have found just about every way but the right way to heal and grow from the wounds that we have incurred, either as self-inflicted wounds or others inflicted. The reality of the matter is none of those tactics work long term. The wound may stop for a minute, but it's still going to be a wound because it's left untreated. And every attempt that we make to disappear or to make that wound disappear, it just becomes a potential contributor to our complete destruction. I mean, what starts out as a little bullet hole will eventually cause the entire leg to fall off, and before long, our entire body is destroyed. But there is a turning point. The problem is most men miss this. After I experienced that anxiety attack in 2019 and I started to dive in, I started to understand what had happened, why it had happened, and what led to it. I began reflecting back on my first encounter with Jesus, my first real encounter with Jesus in August of 2006. And as I reflected back on that first encounter, I was reminded that I bore my wounds for a reason. Well, for two reasons, actually. The first was to coax me back into the arms of Jesus. And as unmasculine as that may sound, it was the smartest thing that ever happened. God was reminding me in 2006, in 2019, time and time again in between that, and even after that, God was reminding me that I could not flourish on my own. The second reason was so God could further open my mind to show me that I could go beyond simply owning my wounds. They weren't just going to be a badge of honor. I began to learn to address them, to grow from them, to relate to others through them. And ultimately, and this is the big unlock, this is the big key. If you want to make 2026 the most incredible year yet for you, this is it. I learned to leverage my wounds to discover and hone God's calling on my life. That realization changed everything for me. Absolutely everything. And that initial discovery is what I want to help you with now to make this a little bit more practical for you. I developed, if you've read my book, you've seen this, if you've gone through any of our training, any of our coaching modules, if you followed my content, you've probably seen this or heard this term a time or two, but it's called the wound analysis framework. The first step is really, really simple. It's just not easy, especially for men. The first step is to acknowledge the hurt. I have to be willing to admit that I screwed up, that I did damage to myself, to other people. When I do damage to other people, it, in fact, then does damage back to myself. Or maybe, this may be even harder for some of you to admit, you have to acknowledge that somebody else hurt you. I see this a lot with men that are hurt by their father or men that are hurt in a past romantic relationship. Men have a real hard time admitting that somebody else hurt them. It's as if it makes them weak. What's making you weak is not admitting that you were hurt. Because if you can't admit to the hurt, you're never going to be able to do anything about it. You're going to continue to just mask it, and you're going to continue to destroy yourself. And you're never going to become all that God has created you to be. So you got to start by acknowledging the hurt. I did this. Such and such did this to me. The second step in the wound analysis framework is brutal honesty. We have to be honest about the effect, about the impact. I call it realize the effect. Acknowledge the hurt, then realize the effect. What was the effect of my dad leaving at 6? What was the effect of me throwing my entire life into the relationship I did with another woman to help care for her child that wasn't mine, but tell everybody else, including my own family, that that child was mine, only to have that child ripped from me 2 years later? What did that do to me? I mean, so many things. Both of those things compounded caused me to not want to be in a serious relationship again. Both of those things dented my ego in ways that I wouldn't even fully realize for 40 years. We have to understand how we were impacted negatively by those wounds, again, self-inflicted or others inflicted. We have to realize the effect. So much of the coaching that I do with clients, this is where we spend a lot of time initially. Tell me more about how that hurt you. You see, with therapy, they want to keep you there. My goal is understanding what happened so we can lead to the third step in the wound analysis framework. That's why coaching is so much better than therapy 99% of the time. The third step in the wound analysis framework. So as I said, it's acknowledge the hurt, realize the effect, and then the third step is to unlock the greatness. If you look at your own life, most likely, if you look at scripture where we see God very specifically work and act in the lives of his children, you will see over and over again that from pain comes greatness. You will see in stories like that of Joseph in the Old Testament. You will see in stories like that of Job. You will see in stories of Jonah. You will see in stories of the entire people of Israel and the roller coaster of a relationship that they had with God as the result of their own doing. You will see in the ways in which the apostles of the New Testament, Paul and Peter, would have greatness unlocked on the back end of things that they did or things that were done to them. And again, look to your own life. If you take the time to truly understand, first, own up to the fact that you were hurt, understand what that did to you, and then recognize what God is showing you through that, you will become an unstoppable force of nature. Being vulnerable about the events that hurt you is not a weakness, it's a strength. And as I was thinking again, just about what would be most helpful to kick off the new year for the people that subscribe, that listen, that watch, I felt like what would be most helpful was to once and for all help you to unlock what's inside of you. You see, because most of you have started off this new year adding new habits. trying to kick old ones, maybe even. You're, you or somebody around you has helped you to come up with a new strategy. You're going to read a new number of books. You're going to watch a new number of videos, listen to a new number of podcasts. You're going to get back into a consistent rhythm in the gym. Those are all good things. But if you have unhealed hurt inside of you, unacknowledged hurt inside of you, that will continue to hold you back. For some of you, you almost got there. 2025, you felt like, man, I was on the verge, but there's something holding me back. You got to go deeper. You got to once and for all heal and learn and grow. This is what I've spent the most time on over the last 6 years. And this is what I will continue to spend the most time on for myself and for those that God blesses me to be able to serve. If we can finally get out of our own way, not by ignoring our past, but by unlocking it, the sky is truly the limit. God's desires for our life, God's plan for our life is greater than any dream or vision we could ever have. What you think you're capable of, even if you have a real high view of yourself, doesn't hold a candle to what God has equipped you to do. If this message resonates with you, please make sure to subscribe. Join our free community. Link is down in the show notes. Engage. Let's walk this journey together. I want to help you with the latest, greatest tools, tactics, and ideas. Whatever that is, we can help with all those things. But it's ultimately going to start with you, because those demons will continue to hunt you down until you deal with them once and for all. My prayer for every single one of you that will listen, every single one of you that will watch, is that 2026 is the year that you finally unlock the greatness that's inside of you. It's not out there somewhere. It's already in you. The question is, are you man enough to do something about it?